Hi everybody, Rob Woodbridge from Untether.tv, where we get behind the business of mobile. I'm here with Jeff Bacon, who's the Director of Product Management at Magmic. And you might be thinking, Magmic again, why Magmic? Well, they're neighbors of mine. I have a close relationship with them. And we just finished an interview a while back with Nicholas Richenbach, and he talked about licensing. And I thought that this was the natural follow-up to that licensing talk, because I want to talk to Jeff about the New York Times Crossword Puzzle and that license and what they've done over the last couple of years with that product. And we're going to focus most of our efforts, our conversation on that today. So, welcome, Jeff. Thanks for coming and doing this so late at night.
No problem.
Well, we'll get right into it, because I don't want to waste any time on this. Our time is short, as you know. But the conversation started last week when Jeff and I had lunch, and we were talking about the perils and the joys and the pains of managing a brand like the New York Times. So let's just start talking about it. So give us a little bit about background. How long have you had the brand inside of Magmic, and how did it start, and where did it begin? Why don't we go with that?
Sure. We've been working with New York Times since early 2008. We signed the New York Times brand, and Nicholas Reichenbach was one of the instigators of that deal who you talked with before. So we got that brand on board in early 2008 and worked through the first 6 to 9 months of 2008 to produce the first version of the New York Times Crosswords product. Actually, we did two products based on the New York Times brand, the New York Times Crossword and the New York Times Sudoku. We did the New York Times Crossword product first, and that was a September 2008 release on BlackBerry and J2ME. And we followed that up through the latter half of 2008 with releases on other carriers in North America, and extending it to iPhone in March of 2009. So it's been on the iPhone platform for almost a year, I guess, exactly a year now, being March of 2010. And so we've seen the product grow from its initial stages through some really great success in the last 12 to 18 months.
So starting with the BlackBerry, challenging environment, certainly because there was no touch screen back then a couple of years ago when you guys put it out. What were some of the usability challenges, and how did you overcome those when it came to the BlackBerry platform?
Well, the BlackBerry has a couple of different form factors. It's got the Pearl size with the SureType keyboard, and it's got your standard curve or bold format with the full QWERTY keyboard on it. So there's at the time we were designing it, there's only a couple of form factors on BlackBerry to deal with. The variations amongst those are relatively trivial to deal with. So we started with worrying about the screen sizes, because that's really the differentiator when you're designing a mobile product, is making sure that what you're designing fits on the screen and is usable for people. So the first stages went through a lot of design prototypes, since we were designing it for BlackBerry and feature phones, J2ME, cell phone handsets at the same time, which have a much broader range of features and sizes on it. We had a fairly large design document and went through a variety of prototypes for the interface in terms of how do you display the crosswords puzzle, which is 6 to 8 inches in diagonal diameter in
the New Year's one. The New Year's one is like a full page, right? So
yeah. So how do you display that on a screen size of a couple inches in diameter in a way that the user can understand what it is, and also not just understand what they're seeing at that time, but in a traditional game, an action game or a card game, really what's on your screen at that time is all you're really interested in. But with a crosswords game, you have the puzzle section to fill out, but you also have all the clues that you need to read and understand in order to decide what content to fill out in the puzzle. So not only do you have this large grid to fill out, but you also have the assortment of clues that you need to be able to read as well. So it was a real design challenge to fit the puzzle on screen at the same time as enough information from clues so that users could know what they were supposed to fill in for those blanks, and also on the touchscreen devices be able to put a keyboard input mechanism. But on the original BlackBerries, fortunately, they had keyboards on them that are pretty good keyboards. Yeah. And so using text input on those is a relatively trivial thing to do, and also very easy for users to do. So in fact, the BlackBerry had a great advantage for text-based games, that they have the keyboard, they have people used to typing text on it. So text entry was the least of our worries. It was more about fitting the crossword real estate on the small screen and navigating around the crossword puzzle. There's the across and the vertical different clues, and every time you're on a box, there's two different clues that can apply. So making sure the user can swap between the vertical and the horizontal and see the clues. We address that challenge in a couple of ways. We have the main view of the crossword puzzle on screen at the top of the screen, and along the bottom is the clue for the particular cell that you have highlighted, either vertically or horizontally. And when you select the cell that you're on, it swaps in between the vertical and the horizontal clue, so you just see the clues change. There's also a clues-only mode, which I think is a really interesting and surprisingly popular way for people to enter clues. And instead of seeing the whole grid, they see the list of clues with hangman-style underscore blanks below them, where they can just type the word in there, which makes it quite quick to fill in some of the clues. You can just keep skipping down the clues and fill in the words. You see 5 or 6 clues at the same time versus navigating a grid.
Well, you see, that's how I would do it, because I just I start horizontal and then go vertical and then don't answer anything, and then I complete a crossword in like 3 minutes because I don't have the patience for it. So that's a perfect way for me to be able to do it.
I completed in 3 minutes too by filling in the 3 clues I can solve and then say I'm done.
And then it's it. I'm finished. And then on to the next one. And it's a good thing you have so many. So when we talked last, we also talked about the cost of the development of these games. The evolution of something like a crossword puzzle, where maybe 3 or 4 years ago it didn't cost as much, but you didn't have the expectations that were there about the gameplay. So now you've just talked about 2 different modes for gameplay on 2 different size screens, just with a BlackBerry. Then you move into the Storm, which is a completely different input mechanism, and then the iPhone, which is a completely different mechanism. So ultimately you have 3, 4, 5 SKUs going on for each product with a couple of different variations of gameplay in it. And so this must get somewhat costly to develop for something like this.
For sure, especially when you have to design new input or interface mechanisms for your product. That's real cost there. It's not just porting it to another device, which when you need to do that 1,000 times, it adds up as well. But when you need to redesign what you're doing for another device that you need to support, that can get expensive. It can get frustrating sometimes as well, trying to go, well, we have a product on market, it's good. Why is somebody releasing a new device that requires us to redesign the UI for it, for better or for worse? So the Storm came out in November of 2008, and so we did work right away to get the New York Times Crosswords running on the Storm, which was the third really new design and UI paradigm to deal with for crosswords on the BlackBerry. We had to render our own keyboard and respond to touch through all the menus and through the interactions with the game. So it was really a challenge, and it's really an opportunity for cost to spiral out of control as well, as you kind of go down the rabbit hole of trying different prototypes, and you can kind of get caught up in trying something new. Oh, this isn't quite right. Let's try something else. Let's try something else. And you really need to have some experience to understand when to stop the change from kind of overwhelming your design, and you pick some designs and look at the feedback you're getting from people and understand that trust that when people say they like something, that they'll like it and other people will also like it and move forward.
Yeah, and it's exactly that. I think that there's a point where you can get caught up in perfection, and you have to satisfy the majority of the people that you're selling to, I think the rest of the people who aren't as satisfied, maybe incrementally they'll come on board as you do new releases and updates. So I want to talk about how you distributed this. So